1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we've got enough here. I'm going to get started so we can get rolling. Oh, and I do have Councillor Carlson online that can't hear anything, but that's all right. You can hear us? Can you speak? Can we hear you?
I hope you can hear me
on.
now.
You're on. You're good. All right. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not there, Blaine.
All right. Okay, with that, we will get rolling here. We'll start off with a roll call, Madam City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor Hagan. I'm going to turn on everyone's mics so they don't have to do this, so we can do this quickly. Hold on.
Awesome. I like that.
Okay, it only lets me turn on a few. Never
I
mind.
hope you can hear me
on.
now.
You're on.
Yay.
Councillor Dodick?
All right.
Present.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not there.
Councillor
Blaine.
Campbell? Not here. Councillor Carlson?
Present.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel? Here. Councillor Parker?
Here.
Councillor Palladino?
Here.
Councillor Croson? Here. And Acting Mayor Middleton Hope.
Present.
Mayor Hagan?
And present.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And with on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pay respect to Blackfoot people past, present, and future while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationships to the land. City of Lethbridge is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. I have an adoption of agenda from Councillor Croson. Be it resolved that October 18th, 2023 agenda of the Economic Standing Policy Committee meeting be adopted as presented. Ms. Clifford. Hilford, we'll call it Hilford, not Clerk Hilford. Any amendments to the agenda?
Thank you, Mayor Hagan. There is no amendments to this agenda.
Right. Councillor Croson?
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor? And that has passed. Thank you. Consent agenda from Councillor Dodick. Be it resolved that the minutes of the Economic Standing Policy Committee meeting held on October 3rd, 2023 be approved, and the Mayor and City Clerk be authorized to sign the same, and further be resolved that the status of initiatives for October 18th, 2023 be received as information. Councillor Dodick? Question's been called. All in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. All right. And I'm going to ask my colleagues, as we've had a group out there waiting since 1:30, if we can do a little swap around here with the two presentations that we do have, and take 5-2, Robin James, CAO, Lethbridge Housing, and then we'll follow up with Mr. Warkentin from Lethbridge District Exhibition. If that's okay with my colleagues, we'll move on that way. All right. So first, we'll ask for Ms. James and Mr. Kirk and team to. I know we've got Kayla as well here to come up to the mics, and we can get started. So with that, I know welcome to the Economic Standing Policy Committee. I know we've had this discussion over a few times, and I will turn the time over to yourself, Mr. Kirk, who is a board member with Lethbridge Housing. Time is yours.
Thanks, Blake. Or Mayor Hagan, I guess. Sorry. Anyways, I got to apologize. I have a cold, but I don't have COVID. I just tested myself before I came here, so just for everybody to know that. Thanks for this time today. Obviously, this has been going on for quite a while. And it's not that we're not wanting to pay property tax, or well, I guess that's true. We don't want to pay property tax, but the reality of what we're really trying to get through here is that what we're trying to do for the city and how we do it, and when we get all this other funding and the way we're allowed to charge for it and the $50 for the utilities and so on and so forth, the reality of what happens is we can't deficit finance on a certain building or certain one of our holdings. So we run a P&L for each one, and by the province, they will not fund us. So you could see how amongst what we're trying to do, what we've established and how we've tried to maximize the benefit for the city of Lethbridge. Now, and the people that we actually serve. So there's two things that we're trying to do is we're trying to serve the people that need the help as far as homeless and subsidies and so on and so forth. And the other thing we're trying to do is help, get more funding out of either the feds, the provincial, so on and so forth. But just to emphasize it, it's not deficit financing. So what I mean by that is that in true sense of the word is each development has to work on its own. We have to we need to zero finance it, or break even at least, and we'd like to have a little bit more so we can actually use that money to move on to the next venture, so we could actually establish more ways to get federal money and provincial money. So obviously, everybody's had this, I think. Does everybody get this prior to the event? Or so everybody's read all these. So anyways, that's my little speech coming in. Next, please. Again, it's self-explanatory. And everybody's familiar with the fact that we're actually now administering the $4 million of annual funding. So from our perspective, or the way I feel about it, being how long have I been on the board? This will be your third year. It seems longer. Anyways, so really, because we're the asset holder and we own the assets, it actually makes us more efficient to monitor the funds that are actually we're giving away to various organizations or giving to them so that they can actually help us with the people that are in our facilities some of the time. So from that perspective, my true feeling is that we can run it more efficiently and keep costs down. And actually, we have people out there every day looking at the assets, taking care of the assets, getting the calls on the assets. So we know if the organizations that are getting the funding are actually supporting the patrons at our buildings. So to avoid this ask every year and this dispute or whatever we want to call it, we've done many attempts to try to get it to make this easier so we don't have to stand in front of council every year and ask for money. So, you know, quite honestly, from our perspective, we thought we'd become a registered charity and then we'd be exempt, right? So, again, we did that. So, next, please. So, and again, part of the reason, or my understanding, and we can debate this, I guess, is that we've been denied our property tax exemption because we're only the owner of the asset. But in true sense of the word, we actually have 6 employees that are constantly servicing the people that are our patrons or our residents. And we also now, because of the new HBO, we actually are in charge of that money, so we can actually monitor that too and have the wraparound services for the various people that actually are part of our housing. Now there's other housing that they actually support, so it's not necessarily just ours, but it just makes it a lot easier for us to take care of that. So again, we received our charitable status. Well, I'll let you guys read this. This is Alberta Municipal Affairs Property Tax Exemption Guide. As far as when I read it, I think it makes us exempt, right? But I guess there's various opinions on it. So I'll just, you know, we truly believe that we fulfill all these services and even the monies we get to charge accordingly, so. I already mentioned this, that we have 6 staff that sole purpose is to provide wraparound services. We also, I mentioned this, we took care of, or we're now in charge of the funding by the Alberta government. And our staff is available for the tenants at all times, as well as for the community at large. So again, I don't know why, but anyways, I'm standing here asking for the exemption again. So I guess the way I look at it is the social housing was owned by the government of Alberta. The rent expectation is a maximum 30%. The way we have to fund it based upon the money we get from the CMHC is, in reality, we only receive 26%. So by all standards, we're actually lower than what we would be allowed to charge, so there's a benefit to the tenant, but in real terms, it cuts our funding, and we don't have that extra cash to handle it. So we go through a little explanation of what the seniors pay in our units over at Southgate and what we've done with that. So we've actually done a good job of, the numbers speak for themselves. I'll just move on to the next one so we can actually get to the real crux of the discussion on how it all works through the system. Again, I mentioned this earlier. I think I must have a cold because I seem to be ahead of myself. But anyways, we're at a lower percentage than we're allowed to charge. So this is, next slide. So 32 of our units at Southgate are capped at 65% of CMHC market. So this ends up being lower than what they would pay if it was based on 30% of income. Now, we've also done a good job of, we're at 100% fill, aren't we, over there? So we've actually taken people, and honestly, as a board member, I always was excited about moving them to a different environment, being the elderly. I think it's a better place for them to live. It's better environment, it's versus Helmrest, right? And the issues that happen downtown. So we've actually moved them out of there. They actually pay a little bit less than they paid us over there, right? But now we actually rent it to people that pay us $120 a month. But again, Helmrest is deficit funded. So in other words, the government comes through, the provincial government comes through and funds that for us. How we made, so we wanted to pull people out of Helmrest, move them over to Southgate, and when we did that, the reality is that, I'm on the next slide, sorry. So we have 17 individuals moved in Helmrest from homelessness and spaces vacated by those who moved to Southgate, right? So we're trying to help the city. We're trying to get as much advantage as we can out of the various government bodies. But again, I just need to emphasize, we do not get deficit funding other than for Helmrest. So what we've done is moved everything around this way. We've used the subsidy to fill up Southgate fast. That comes from the provincial government also. So, but again, the P&L that we have to run and that we do not get deficit financing on is an individual statement. So we need it to break even or make a little bit every year, right? So that's what we're trying to do. And if you figure everything out of what we've done and how we've moved everyone around, we've actually helped out or got the government monies or funds from the provincial guys for an additional $236,000 to help get people off the streets and the homeless and help them out or help them with subsidies. Next slide, please. Yeah, and I guess I'm kind of proud of LHA in the sense that we don't ignore anyone. We try to deal with an issue. The easiest answer in the world, guys, is no, right? So that's the easiest answer in the world. But we try to deal with it. And this particular resident is high maintenance. Nobody would deal with them. We got them back off the street. We house them now. And actually, you know, if you want to look at it as another saving to what we're trying to do to work with the city, we're actually probably saving EMS $50,000 a year, because I think he used to call once or. At least once a day. So, right, so I'll be honest, I never understood all this stuff because, well, I just did what I did. So when I got as a member of the board and started to understand this, and the other thing is I want the Lethbridge as a community to be a good community. I want it to be somewhere where people will want to move into the community. And I also want to see it help deal with the issues that we need to deal with. So I look at this and say, we keep asking, we keep talking about it, and I understand that we can ask for a grant in lieu of every year. My honest opinion is that by the way I would interpret the rules, and I know Larry's probably going to disagree, but I would say that if there's a gray area, they should make us exempt so we don't need to be here every year to ask, because in real terms, we're fulfilling a service that's very important. And we'd like to do more of it. We'd like to build more places. We'd like to go get more government grants from CMHC or the province. We'd like to do that. But we don't get funding for property tax. And then we need to run it because the profitability of it has to be on its own. Anyways, that's my quick down and dirty, kind of like a business guy talking about it. So,
no, thank you very much, Mr. Kirk. Appreciate that presentation. It's eye-opening. I know every time we look at it, and the great work that Lethbridge Housing does do to service those that are, most of them are quite vulnerable within our community. So thank you very much for that. I don't know if there's anything, Petrosky or James, that you have to add to this, or we can open it up for questions. Is there anything that either of you had to add, or be there to answer questions, I guess, right?
Just questions.
All right, perfect. I do have questions in the queue, so Councillor Carlson, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Kirk. Nice to see you. I as well. I'm suffering with a cold, so I feel your pain. First question I had is, I guess maybe I'm a bit thick. I couldn't see an actual ask or a specific ask in here. There's a lot of different properties talked about. Is this just for Southgate?
no, it's for all our properties that we would own, that we subsidize the.
Okay, is that somewhere in here? I couldn't see where that was, where the actual ask was. And as I said, maybe it's the Neo Citron.
No, it's not the Neo Citron.
Okay,
James, if Miss James' mic is on as well, if there's anything you need to add.
So our specific ask is similar to the conversations we've had in the past. We would like Lethbridge Housing Authority's stock and the Lethbridge and Region Community Housing Authority's, Lethbridge and Region Community Housing Association, all the affordable stock to be exempt from property taxes.
is that listed here somewhere? I couldn't tell.
We probably should have.
What you're
done the
actually
last slide
asking
say
for.
that. Sorry, Councillor Carlson, I apologize.
The last slide does, sorry.
No, it should have,
Nope.
sir. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Oh, you
Because
can get on
it's
Mr. Carlson.
no worries. It's just hard to know what we're talking about. Because my question was going to be through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CFO, Mr. Matthews, or city manager or designate. Because the ask wasn't in here, maybe you haven't had time to calculate what this cost would be to our community.
I think they know the exact amount, don't they? Because we just didn't pay the property tax.
Sir, exact to Mr. CFO, Mr. Matthews.
Through members of Economic Standing Policy Committee to Councillor Carlson. Sorry, I was just having a bit of a sidebar there. Maybe just a quick refresher on the on the question, and then I will answer it for you.
Thank you for this. I believe now that it's been clarified, the request is for all of LHA's housing stock to be exempt. And I'm just wondering what the impact that would be on our ratepayers in extra taxes we need to collect from our citizens.
So I don't know exactly the amount for LHA specifically. I believe, I'm looking at Mr. Laverty in the audience here, I believe that for all what we know of nonprofits, it'd be around $500,000 per year. I got a thumbs up, so that would be that component. And for LHA, I'll let the speakers answer that question, or Ms. James.
Thank you.
So for the LHA portfolio, it would be 42,000, well, based on this year, 42,000 and change. And then on the LNR side, and that includes Southgate, it's another 182.5. So we're talking about less than $250,000 currently.
And Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. I wish I could be there in person. My mic or the sound is cutting in and out, so I couldn't hear Ms. James' response. But as long as we can get that information in somehow, so we know exactly what we're talking about, that would be helpful.
Yes,
And
I believe it was under $250,000 a year. That's for LHA was 42,000 and 182.5 for the other. I should have that memorized. I hear this all the time in our meetings, but yeah, so just under $220,000 or sorry, under 250 for all of them.
hey, thank you. My final question through Mr. Mayor and to Mr. Kirk or Ms. James. As you know, Lethbridge has a really high percentage compared to other municipalities of tax exempt properties, which puts a really more pressure on our business community and our other residents' tax bill, because it doesn't mean the cost goes away. It just means somebody else has to pay it. And so I'm wondering if any advocacy has been done to the province. Ms. James, as you know, we brought this up to the Minister of Housing, that giving us taxes in lieu or grants in lieu of taxes would be beneficial to us, because, as I said, every time we exempt a property, the cost doesn't go away. It's just we put it on the business tax or the residential tax. So somebody else is paying it. And it'd be nice if the government of Alberta, who has a lot more money than we do, would be willing to cough up some of these dollars, because it is their responsibility. It is not really our jurisdiction, it is theirs. So has any advocacy work been done with the government of Alberta?
I guess Mr. Carlson, in a way to get around it, to be honest with you, we've worked the program as much as we've got them to give us an extra $236,000 to support our housing, just because of how we restructured this, moving people over, because there's some of it that gets funded 100%, right? So Halmerass gets 100% through there. So we pull people out of there, move them to the other, put them in there, we're getting an extra $236,000. So yeah, we've asked them for that. They don't really respond to it, because as far as my understanding is that, hold on here, if we own the property, there'd be no property tax. But we've made every effort as a body to work with the city to get as much funding out of the province and the feds, right? So we're just trying to do our job to help out the city as hard as we can. I know that they say no, if we owned it, you wouldn't have to pay it. We do not change the funding for that. But in a roundabout way, be proud of us that we went and got additional funds from them to support the various people within the city.
I
That's
do
just on
appreciate.
a short-term basis, right? That we've done. And
Yeah,
we're gonna
and
we play it as hard as we can. So we've asked,
I-
but they have a different attitude, and I don't like to ask again and again. Apparently, I'm doing it again and again here, but.
I was going to say, keep asking, because we keep asking them. But if I'm maybe understanding is, if you're asking us for $250,000 in tax relief, and the government of Alberta is giving you now an extra nearly $250,000, doesn't that kind of make it that they've actually paid your property tax bill?
Okay. First and foremost, I pay a lot of property tax, business and right? So as a guy that pays quite a bit, I'd be willing to help have my mill rate go up slightly for this more than other things, okay? Second of all, they're divided. So we've got an extra $236,000, but it came to the project that we actually get funding they'll fund deficit financing. On stuff like Southgate, that we went and got $7 million of Fed and provincial money, we have to do real low rates that people benefit from. That on its own does not get any help. So yes, we've got this extra money over here, but we don't transfer it over to the other Southgate. It just doesn't work that way. I mean, we're playing it as hard as we can. We're working as hard as we can. Believe me, I'm good at this, right? So trust me, and I understand numbers, right? I would get it if I could get it, and people would pay attention to me, okay? So.
All right. Well, I guess I'll just ask you to keep trying because we'll keep trying as well.
Yeah, no, and so do we.
Councillor Croson.
Thank you, and thank you for being here, but I appreciate that you may be okay with being taxed more. I don't know if many of our other residents and businesses might. So if you're willing to be taxed more, are you willing to make donations to LHA now that it's a charity? And that leads into my question, what's the fundraising strategy that your charity has for raising donations from the community to support some of these costs? Is there one? Have you thought of doing fundraising?
Well, we did last time, and I really don't talk about what I do for charity and stuff, so.
No, I'm talking about the organization. Does the organization LHA have a fundraising strategy?
You go ahead.
So on the Southgate project, we did fundraise over $500,000 on that project. And what we're looking at is just the ongoing piece. We will look at some ongoing funding now that we are the homeless provider as well. So we will start looking at some strategies at this point. But as you know, we're 6 months in and just trying to get it under our belt. And then specifically to the other question, those members of council that were in that ministry meeting, it was very clear the minister is only interested in putting together dollars for capital projects when it comes to housing and not operational dollars. So in order for us to continue to gain capital dollars from the province, from the feds, we need to ensure some sort of an operational balance. And that's why we're coming to our municipality for, we didn't come to the municipality for the $30,000 a door for that funding that was available on Southgate. We didn't get that funding piece. We got some old money that was given to us about 10 years ago, I think it was. So what we're asking here is not for, we can ask the province for capital, we can ask the feds for capital, but when it comes to the municipality, we have not asked you for capital at this point. We're asking you for some ongoing support to keep rents as affordable as possible as we leverage what we can leverage with the provincial government.
Thank you, but respectfully, my notes actually say that, and this is what shocked me, the minister was saying that they would provide operational, not capital.
That's for homelessness, Councillor Croson.
Yes, but
not for housing.
I would look back and see if they can provide it across because he did look like he might. And we have 13% already exempt in Lethbridge, right? 13% of our land base is exempt. And if we work with you and go for it, our concern is, and this is more debate, I realize, than a question right now, is who else is going to come forward? Are there other organizations in Lethbridge that you're aware that are in a similar position to you that might be coming forward if we exempt you?
So the organizations that we're familiar with and the ones that we've talked to are already exempt.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. So there's an organization that provides affordable housing that came forward to council. They're currently looking at purchasing a privately owned apartment building and renovating said privately owned apartment building. That privately owned apartment building, Councillor Croson, currently right now with that private person owning it is getting tax exemption because that particular organization is renting it for affordable housing. So I'm saying that there's a lot of places that we have already given some exemptions to. We are an organization that provides a large amount of affordable housing in this city, and we would appreciate the support to be able to continue to do that. So all the organizations we've worked with are exempt.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Palladino?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you too for presenting today. I get it that the province, if it was provincially owned, that you would be exempt. And I'm looking at your key points bullet or sheet that you had the key points on, and around the fifth one, you say that the cost to the city for exempting Southgate is really less than $50,000. Property taxes on raw land, and you had that captured. And then you say it was not developed as a commercial venture, and otherwise it would be exempt, and I don't get that. Maybe you can expand on that a little bit.
So I guess pretend it stayed raw and we didn't go get the provincial money and go get the CMHC grant funding.
Okay.
We got $7 million, and of course we had to build a good place, put solar panels, make it
It's nice.
handicapped accessible, all the things,
Right.
even though it's kind of like I tried to park out here and there's lots of EV parking, but I had to go pay for it out front. But anyways, so the moral of the story is if we didn't do what we did, then the city would still be just getting $50,000 or whatever. But we did what we did. So the moral of the story is look at it from that perspective. Don't look at it as a revenue generating thing for yourself. Just say, hey, and I think at times you guys give property tax abatements away to people if they go
I guess
make things better and stuff. So that's what it really was about. It was about the fact that if it was, we didn't do what we did, you would have got 50,000 before. Now we did what we did, and you want 182,000.
I guess I'm hung up on the word commercial venture.
Yeah, I think.
It's not zone. It was never zone commercial.
Okay. Yeah. It was zone high density.
High
one
density
time.
residential.
Yeah. So, but it's really residential now, and it's really the 1% rate. So I guess they must value it at about 18 million, right, or whatever. So.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel?
Thank you very much for this, and thank you very much, Mr. Kirk and Ms. James, for coming forward with this presentation. Much appreciated. A couple, just so I'm wrapping my head around this correctly, you received the $236,000 from the provincial government because you were able to move people out of Halmrast into Southgate and then open up other beds, or open up those beds in Halmrast to unhoused population. So we were able to get people off the street?
So just to be clear, so the requirement under the CMHC funding was only that 50% of the units were deeply subsidized.
Okay.
When we recognized that we were struggling with needing more affordable housing, specifically for seniors, I'm sure anyone on the Green Acres Board could attest to this, the need is so high, we went back to the provincial government and actually asked for rental assistance benefits specific to Southgate to support the other 32. So in that complex, there is now 64 affordable housing units. The entire complex itself is affordable now instead of just the required 32. So that's the cost to the provincial government to subsidize the additional 32 annually.
Okay, but that opened up rooms in Halmrast.
It did.
And we were able to get more people housed then as we look at moving people through to other locations then. That did pull people off the streets and get them housed.
17 immediately. Once we opened Southgate and we transferred the seniors over, we housed 17 from homelessness within the 3 months. It takes some time to settle, but the number is 17 that came over almost immediately.
Okay. Further to that, we talked a little bit about what the property tax exemption amount would be from your properties, and we understand that that's less than $250,000. Our total nonprofit property tax exemption is $500,000. Am I understanding that right, Mr. CFO?
Through to Economic Standing Policy Committee, to Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, just looking at the hand signals from Mr. Laverty, he probably could elaborate a bit more, but it looks like it's approximately around that. It could be higher.
Sorry, Mr. Laverty, can you, wow, this mic, something's going on. Can you move down here to one of these microphones that's right by between Mr. Elliott and Ms. Kleisinger? It might be a little bit easier. Thank you.
Yeah, there's something going on with the sound. It's weird. You were like the voice of God from somewhere else.
Your mic is on, Mr. Laverty, so.
Okay. Thank you. What we looked at, it's approximately 639,000 in taxes, but the municipal portion of that would be 528,000.
So that's the total nonprofit exemption?
That's what we believe it to be, yes.
Okay, and LHA is less than 250,000 of that?
They are, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I had my head wrapped around that percentage. Through you, Chair, to the city manager or designate, can you help me understand what other not-for-profit charitable organizations that provide deeply subsidized or affordable housing that are currently paying property taxes that we may see coming forward? Are there others? Do you have a list?
I don't have a list specifically with me today. I could look into it, but again, we're not 100% certain as to how much subsidy some of these organizations offer. So we're looking at, like I said, I'm just trying to think of a couple of other ones off the top of my head, but we're thinking Aboriginal Housing Society and places like that would be included in that.
Because on this one, I'm just trying to get a handle on, if we looked at this, what would we be looking at of other requests coming forward? And we would need to start projecting the future expenses.
So our projection, like I said, would be about $639,885 based on what we believe are the organizations that provide this type of affordable housing. Again, the municipal portion of that would be $528,000.
And what was that number again? 689?
639.
639,000?
Yeah.
And that would be the total if everybody came forward to ask for that relief?
All of the nonprofits.
Okay.
There's also for-profits that provide affordable housing.
Okay, but those nonprofits, that would qualify for this?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I guess another question through you, Mr. Chair, to the city manager designate. I brought forward a request that we look at the model that Edmonton had, and I see that they have launched their new affordable housing tax grant just in May of this year. And I brought forward back in 2022 that we look at a similar model to what Edmonton had and do some research in on that. Does anybody have any information on where that request might be at?
My apologies, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, if you could repeat that question. Sorry, I was on a bit of a sidebar there.
So it was it was over a year ago, it was in the spring, but I had requested that we take a look at the model that Edmonton had because they had quite an interesting model insofar as tax grants. And they have now just launched their new affordable housing tax grant. Covers municipal property taxes for all affordable housing units owned and operated by nonprofit organizations. And it was to bring the city's policies in line with provincial legislation. And I had asked that we take a look at what Edmonton had and see what we could do for a Lethbridge solution about a year ago. And I'm just wondering if that work is still continuing or if anybody has looked into that or where we might be with that.
So in regards to that component, I would have to take that back. I'm not 100% sure myself where that piece is at this time. I know that one of the things that we would suggest here as well is for us to obviously work on this issue if City Council so wishes. So I know that that work was a piece of work that was brought forward, and I know we reported back at different times. So I just can't remember exactly what the status of that is at this moment.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have a question for Mr. Laverty. We talked about the 528 that for the municipal portion / the other. If through Mr. City Manager's his designate, who, if I could please get a list of all of those that you believe would be included in there, as well as what the amounts are for each of those, that would be great. Doesn't have to be right now, but in the next couple of days, that'd be great to have all that information so that we know who could be coming forward and what those amounts are. Because I think it's 528 or 639 for total, 528 for municipal portion. If we have a breakdown of those businesses that you believe, or those organizations that would or could possibly benefit from that. So that'd be great. Next question is from Acting Mayor Middleton Hope.
Thank you. So there's two questions, and Mr. Matthews is going to have to pay attention to this. The first question is to Ms. James. You identify the tax relief that you're looking for is about $224,000 on 2 properties. Is that correct?
Leaside side properties, the Temple properties, the Southgate properties. So we've got 16 2 and 3 bedroom affordable housing properties on Leaside Avenue. We've got 5 properties on Temple Boulevard, and then we have the 64 units at Southgate. And then if we go to the full 225 or 250, Councillor Middleton Hope, that would also include the LHA business office. So the number without the LHA business office in it is $195,875.32. And then once you add the LHA business office into it, it pops it up about another $30,000.
Okay, I heard 2 numbers, 182,000 and 42,000.
Yeah, so the $42,000 right now is the total. If we were to take all of the property, 42,000 is the property taxes on the Leaside properties, the Temple properties, and the LHA business office. So those are owned by the Housing Authority themselves. And then the Southgate property is owned by Lethbridge and Region Community Housing Corporation, and that's the $182,467. So that's specific to Southgate.
So the amount that I'm coming up with is 224,000. Is that correct?
That sounds about right.
Okay.
Yeah, I rounded high just because,
Okay,
you
so
know.
I need to know what the numbers are. So it's 224,000. So now my question to Mr. Matthews is $224,000 represents about 0.25%. What we're looking at in our budgeting cycle is a 4-year budget cycle. This $224,000 is actually a request for tax exemption in a 4-year budget cycle of nearly $900,000. Does that represent approximately 0.8% that would have to be borne by the taxpayers to provide for this exemption?
Through Economic Standing Policy Committee to Councillor Milton Hope. So on this one, it's a little bit different in nature. So if it's a tax exemption, what it means is that it'll be redistributed to all the other components. So although you're correct in the sense of if it's a brand new new expense that's not in our i.e. that we would have to place, we would have to raise taxes by so 224,000 roughly 0.5 or 250,000 was 0.15%, or 0.313%, I'm guessing, if a little bit less than that. In this case, that's not necessarily how it happens. So what would happen here is that if there was an exemption, those pieces would not be included. We would still collect the same amount of tax that we need to run the municipality, but we would actually collect more tax from the remaining properties within the city. So that means just the residential tax goes up and the commercial tax goes up on those pieces for other people.
Well, that's exactly what I understand. So that's what I'm trying to get to are the numbers. So Ms. James has provided us with a number of $224,000 over a 4-year budget cycle. That is $898,000. So roughly $900,000, which equates to approximately 0.8%. That money has to come from somewhere.
Correct.
Okay, so would that money then be on the back of the rest of the tax-paying public?
That is correct.
Okay, just so I understand it. All right, thank you very much.
Councillor Dodick?
Mr. Lafferty, when you were saying, making a distinction between 639,000 in taxes and 528,000 being the municipal portion, I assume the difference is goes to Green Acres, what goes to the education portion, is that right? So I'm curious, if we were to grant exempt status, would the education portion, since we have to collect it for the province, would we then have to, so all we could exempt would be the municipal portion?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
Okay, so then the question is to you guys, if it's 224,500, is that the municipal portion, or is that the municipal portion plus the education taxes and Green Acre?
Yeah, yes, Councillor Dodick, it is. It's the total, including Green Acres and including the education. We have put forward the question to our province about one housing management body being able to requisition another housing management body. So we've asked if that could be something that we could be exempted from provincially, and they are looking into that. So.
Okay, so as we sit here today, of the 224,500, are you able to tell me what the municipal portion is? I know it's going to be around 75 to 80% of that, but do you have a number?
No, sir, sorry, I don't.
But you can get that to us. Yes, thank you.
All right. I see no further questions in the queue. Any more? All right. With that, I do have one last question for our city manager as designate, which I'm looking over at Mr. Matthews as our city manager has another appointment. I have a resolution, or Councilor Palladino has a resolution coming forward that I'm seeing. It will be up on the screen here. But my question is, actually, you know what? Let's read this, and I'll ask the question after the resolution comes forward. So, with that, I will read a resolution from Councilor Palladino. Lethbridge Housing Authority tax request. Be resolved that the Economic Standing Policy Committee refer this report to administration to work with the Lethbridge Housing Authority to draft a presentation on the options available, along with financial implications, and bring back to the November Economic Standing Policy Committee budget review meeting. So, for questions, mine would, if I can open up some questions. This, I think that conversation for yourself or this team to sit down so that this information that's coming forward to we're reopening, we're looking at our operating and capital budgets here this fall, and we've got a few days that are open for that. For this to come forward, the meeting that you would have to have with Ms. James and board or whatever would need to be very, very soon. Is that fair to say? Is that something that you're able to do? Because we're kicking this, we've heard it, we're kicking this can down the road continually. Like if we know that meeting is going to happen pretty quickly here, let's put it that way, so we go into November with some information that's better when we're looking at our budget.
So to members of Economic SPC and Mayor Hagan, yes, it would need to be fairly soon, but we could meet those deadlines if that's what members of Economic SPC would like to request. We would, assuming that it works for LHE and their board, we would be more than willing to meet with them.
Yeah. Thank you. And I guess I'll leave it at that. And I see no further questions in the queue, so to open debate, Councilor Palladino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, so this is basically to direct administration to work with Lethbridge Housing and take a closer look under the hood a little bit and present options to the November meeting. And so I'm going to support it, and I'd ask you to as well.
Mm-hmm. I will be supporting this. I'm thinking that one of the most important things is to just get this work done so that we're not here every year. So whatever we look at, if it's what Edmonton is currently doing, other models out there, I know there's other organizations that within our community that can requisition so they don't have to worry about this. We don't have the requisition, and I'm saying we when I put my Lethbridge Housing hat on. Sorry, I'm speaking on that side of my mouth as well. have the ability to do that. So this is the venue to be able to work through that. And so I would support this with the understanding that, won't add that in here, but I think our administration knows we need to meet very soon, so the connection with Lethbridge Housing on this would be appreciative. So with that, I will be supporting. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much. I keep pushing the button when you do. I will support this as well. I'm still finding from today's presentation and questions that I asked that we've got too many gaps in the information that we have in front of us. There are other models and other cities out there that we do need to be looking at. And I'd also like us to get a handle on who all the groups are that may be coming forward to ask us for an exemption and what that entire cost might be. It's an ideal time as we look through November and we look at what our budgets are going to be looking at. So I will be supporting this just because we do need to get some more information and we need to work with Lethbridge Housing on this ask.
All right. With that, no further debate. In closing, question's been called. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you. All right. And it feels like Groundhog Day here again for exhibition, as we've just had the lovely opportunity of seeing you all come in. So if there's an opportunity for you to make your way up to the mic to give a quarterly report, that would be great. Mr. Warkentin, welcome.
Thanks for having me back.
Good to see you. I'm excited to hear all of these exciting things from the summertime, so looking forward to the presentation. The floor is yours.
Excellent, thank you. It's obviously been a very exciting past couple months for us. In the past couple months, we opened up the Agri-Food Hub and Trade Center. We had a record-setting Whoop-Up Days that a lot of you took part in, and the future looks very bright for us in our new venue. Thank you. Let's start with August. We saw most of you there, but not only did we open the Agri-Food Hub and Trade Center, one of the things that was intentionally subdued in that opening was we actually unveiled our new brand. We worked with Lethbridge's own London Road Marketing to develop the look and feel that is authentically ours. That would be a recognizable icon both here and across the country, something that realized our agricultural roots and our potential in that industry, and we didn't think that the old brand did. Over 125 years, this has been a gathering place for the community. We've created memories and brought not just Lethbridge, but Southern Alberta together. There's a reason why the Exhibition Park moniker is such a hard one to lose. It's because it's embedded in this community and has been for generations. While this is an incredible legacy, it has, in a way, it has stifled our growth. The image of the red X brings up visions of an organization that had a collection of buildings that sometimes hosted events and a parking lot that once a year hosted a fair. For the rest of the time, there was a lot of empty space. As we began the process of building the Agri-Food Hub and Trade Center and repositioning our organization, we began to shift our message. We leaned in as Canada's agricultural destination. It helped to give us purpose and initiate the conversations at a national level about who we are, what we do, and what makes this region so important. But to truly capture the imagination and build ourselves up as an organization that's an industry leader, a go-to home for world-class events, we had to take a hard look at who we are now, but more importantly, what we're going to be in the future. Hosting world-class experience is where Canadian agriculture grows. This look, this feel, is the next chapter of a story that is not just part of Lethbridge and Southern Alberta's history, but an important part of its future. Our brand overview. As our organization works at our ongoing relationship with the Blackfoot Confederacy, we took learnings from Indigenous practice of everything serving a purpose and nothing wasted. This is encapsulated in our new logo, a logo that directly represents the 5 Ns policies identified by our board of directors that give our organization and drive it forward. Every part of this tells a story. The sun on the horizon represents a new day and age, symbolizing prosperity and opportunity. We display environmental stewardship by proactively managing our carbon footprint and promoting others to explore the ethical implications of dealing with our relationship with this land that is so vitally important. Thank you. The second piece is our connection among stakeholders, symbolizing coming together and connecting in one place, representing the use of the curved architectural feature that matches the north wall of the Agri-Food Hub and Trade Center. We connect Southern Alberta businesses, producers, and processors to national and international groups and contribute to our community's economic and social well-being. Showcases economic wellness and innovation. Hidden in the negative space between those colored sections is a growing sprout, symbolizing the growth of innovations, possibilities, and opportunity at its core. We put Southern Alberta's leadership in the agricultural industry on display and highlight to the world the progressive ways that we have become the Agri-Food Hub of Western Canada. One more, please. World-class events. Minimalistic shape of cattle horns or cattle ears inspired by the exciting rodeos, horse racing, agricultural events that we have held over our vast history. We're a leader in the production and superior visitor experience of hosting world-class events, whether local, regional, national, international, and we help to showcase the arts, technology, business, and more. Lastly, the elements of the logo mark come together to form a wheat structure, recognizing everyone's crucial piece in the larger picture. We celebrate our region's diversity while promoting and educating our community through programming, storytelling, protocol, and placemaking, and facilitating the conversations that drive international trade and further investments into our community. Now the next is actually
around here, we know better than most that when conditions are right, things grow. This land has always given back, provided opportunity, and allowed Southern Alberta to prosper. Lethbridge and District Exhibition has grown right with it. More than a century ago, we first welcomed the world. We thought big then, and it's time to think big again. This is about more than showcasing what we've been. This is about growing into what we can be. About tying into our history and keeping a link to the past while staying focused on the future. About learning and moving forward together. About putting Lethbridge and Southern Alberta on the world map once again. And this is about hosting world-class experiences and opportunities where Canadian agriculture grows. About bringing our community together in a place we can all be proud of. The conditions are right. It's time to grow. Welcome to the Agri-Food Hub and Trade Center.
Start clapping or something.
It's good, right?
It's good. It is very good.
These ends have guided us, and our board has spent a great deal of time over the past 2 years re-looking at these ends to ensure that they're representing this organization moving forward. But more importantly, they represent our desire to be an organization that this city and region can be proud of. An organization that connects our agricultural industry and puts our city on the map. and an organization that thinks big. To help me tell that's, I'm realizing I'm reading the notes from the previous slide, excuse me. Seen the video already. So here we are. The Agri-Food Hub and Trade Center officially opened in August, and I think the majority of you were in attendance. Some of the numbers worth remembering were nearly 300,000 hours of trades worked on this building and continue to finish up this building, 100% of which were Alberta contractors. About 70% were local Lethbridge contractors. Some quick facts. Sorry. We had the ceremonial grand opening on August 10th. We had the public grand opening on August 12th. Our first events, which were 2 separate weddings, were also on August 12th. But maybe more importantly, in the first 6 weeks the building was open, we saw over 100,000 people go through the doors. 2 of those weeks, we closed back down for construction. Good, please, thank you. Some of the highlights from our opening, that in 68 days, we hosted 74 events. Quite frankly, unprecedented for our organization and a testament to the venue and the hard work of our staff. We've hosted large events, 4 separate powwows, a Rumble in the Cage event, Pure Power Wrestling. We've hosted trade shows in marketplaces like last week's Alberta Livestock Convention, the Windy City Tattoo Show, and the Handmade Market. We've hosted our own events like the Saturday Farmers Market and Whoop Up Days. We've hosted small celebrations from weddings to anniversaries and company parties. We've hosted dozens of meetings attracting local businesses with our state-of-the-art amenities. All of this and much more in just 68 days. Thank you. Last, I want to give you an update on Whoop Up Days, and it was truly one to remember. We took a chance with the free gate admission for the community fueled by Gas King, and it paid off incredibly. Our record attendance of more than 77,000 people. We saw more than 5,000 people attend our rodeo, and maybe most importantly, we redefined the expectations of what Whoop Up Days can represent for this community. But I think the undertold story of Whoop Up Days is actually what it gives back to this community. Our partnership with Jumbo Ears contributed to the Lethbridge and District International Baseball Foundation more than $18,000. Our lotteries program, in its second year, sold nearly $85,000 worth of tickets, the lucky winner taking home nearly $40,000, while the YWCA, our charitable partner, received more than $13,000. And these contributions, along with many others, including pancake breakfasts, barbecues, the mayor's lunch, means that Whoop Up Days contributed nearly $70,000 in charitable amounts into this community, amounts that we believe simply wouldn't exist without the overall community festival. As a side note, not related to Whoop Up Days, but I do also want to highlight some other community initiative, is that the Saturday Farmers Markets partnered with FCC's Drive Away Hunger to support 2 local food banks, the Lethbridge and the Interfaith, with donations throughout the 18-week season. And I know I've been asked this question before, why did we do the free admission model? Did it work? The answer is a resounding yes. This Whoop Up Days was the most financially successful in modern times. Just as importantly, Whoop Up Days is a case study for how Lethbridge and District Exhibition as an organization is approaching the future. We saw something that wasn't working the way it always had, so we made the bold, dramatic, calculated decision to shake things up, and it worked. This is an approach we tend to continue into the future. So what's next at LDE? What do we have coming up? We have the busiest season in the history of our organization. More shows, many, many holiday parties, and other celebrations, and much more. Thank you. Glow Lethbridge will kick off November 23rd to December 31st. It was announced yesterday. This is a touring show that can now come to Lethbridge because of the Agri-Food Hub and Trade Center. The Agri-Food Innovation Expo, which takes place this November in Red Deer, is a partnership between us and Westerner Park. So this event will make its debut in Lethbridge in 2024, but it is a partnership between Lethbridge and District Exhibition and Westerner Park. It is currently funded by the provincial government and the federal government, and we do anticipate that this is a second Ag Expo for us. And maybe most importantly, and the largest impact every year for us, is Ag Expo is returning the last week of February, and this is an event that has lasted with our organization more than 75 years, and it finally has the growth opportunity it needs to drive significantly more economic value to this community, again, because of the Agri-Food Hub and Trade Center. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time. I appreciate all of your participation in our events, and I look forward to welcoming you many, many more times to the Agri-Food Hub and Trade Center.
Kids in the ride, and there was one empty seat. What happened to that kid?
That was me. I don't do the rides.
Thank you, Mr. Workington. Appreciate that presentation, and I'm glad that you addressed the free entry, because I don't know if my colleagues, I hear it quite often, and I guess a question I had is they saw that the sponsor, you know, covered the cost of this, and it's my understanding. I said, well, I'm sure it wouldn't be $300K or $400K from this sponsor.
That's correct.
And this is what I'd passed along, but that was a question that's out there, so I'm glad you addressed it, that it was very successful and may not have been without doing the pivot that you did with this, is my understanding. Is that fair to say?
That's 100% our belief. And so we saw more than 40% increase over record numbers for our organization.
And there's still revenues on the back end of additional rides, which came back to the organization, correct? By having the free entry. So you still, there was benefits outside of just having more folks there enjoying, but actual revenues would be higher coming back as well. As I think you had mentioned, it was one of the most successful financially as well.
More than 40% higher than ever before, financially.
Great.
And yes, we certainly do see more people on grounds is a more financially successful event for us.
Thank you. Councillor Dodick.
Yes, I want to thank you for the fair. I took my 9, 7, 5-year-old, 2 granddaughters, 1 grandson to the fair twice.
Excellent.
Allowed them to go on as many rides as they wanted to, eat as much food as they wanted to, play as much games as they wanted to, and I am now filing for bankruptcy, and I want to thank you for that. But my grandkids really enjoyed it, as did I. It was a great experience.
Thank you, and we appreciate your contribution.
All right, I see no further questions in the queue, but I did definitely want to thank you, Mr. Workington, and we do have a resolution here brought by Councillor Dodick that doesn't have anything about the financial implications of taking his grandkids to Whoop Up Days. However, Lethbridge and District Exhibition Quarterly Report. Be it resolved that the verbal Lethbridge and District Exhibition Quarterly Report be received for information. Councillor Dodick.
Yes, again, thanks to Mike Workington and the board members, those that are here and those that are not here, for all the work you've done. And unless there's anyone else, I would call the question.
See no one further in the queue, so the question has been called. All in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your patience as you hung around for a little longer there to pop in, so thank you.
No problem at all. Thank you very much, all.
I have a resolution from Councillor Parker, Lethbridge District Exhibition Project Update 7.1. Be it resolved that the Economic Standing Policy Committee direct administration to work with the Lethbridge and District Exhibition on the confidential recommendations provided in closed session and forward to the October 31st, 2023 meeting of Council closed session. Be it resolved, further be it resolved, the City Council directed the closed meeting discussions and reports with respect to the Lethbridge and District Exhibition Project Update remain confidential pursuant to Section 16, harmful to business interests of a third party, 21, harmful to intergovernmental relations, 23, local public body competences, 24, advice from officials, and 25, harmful to economic and other parties' interests of a public body of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Councillor Parker. Question's been called. All in favor? All right, that carries. Thank you. And from Councillor Parker, closed meeting update, airport update. Be it resolved that the Economic Standing Policy Committee receive the airport update information as, or a report as information, and that the closed meeting discussions with respect to the airport update remain confidential pursuant to Section 21, harmful to intergovernmental relations, and 24, advice from officials of the Freedom of Information Protection of Privacy Act. Councillor Parker. Question's been called. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.